Welcome everybody, good afternoon. Thank you for staying for the last presentation. It's always a lot of fun to be the last guy, but the iPad raffle should help. This is also a presentation as a group. So, like John suggested, Scott and I will hold hands and walk the rails together. So when we were thinking about how do we want to talk to you guys about e-commerce and the information technologies that the association has put together to help companies like us succeed in e-commerce, Scott and I decided that we wanted to talk a little bit about Bilingual Auto Parts. Bilingual Auto Parts is not a company, it's not my company. It's a fictional idea that lends itself to something that I saw real life here yesterday. We all speak Spanish, we all speak English, but boy, do we have different ways of calling parts along the way. And just that is a challenge. Forget about numbers, VIN numbers, Corolla from Mexico, we just call parts a different way. It's a miracle that we get to sell anybody something, because we don't even know what you're looking for. But thankfully, you know, you gotta focus on that and figure out a way to do it in a way that you learn your customer's language. It's so important to learn your customer's language. Hispanic businesses in the United States are growing, and customers do not tolerate bad translations. You really gotta be on the ball on that. Particularly, there's a lot of Hispanics in our industry. Warehousing and trucking, data show that we seem to like that business. You know, raising a bilingual family, I'm raising a bilingual family. I think many of you are from bilingual families. There's a lot of opportunities there. My kids are exposed to more ideas because they speak two languages. They have flexibility in thinking, more brain training. They have increased opportunities, hopefully, when they come to look for a job. And they have rich multicultural experiences. My kids have friends from the States. I'm from South America. I'm from Spain. Very interestingly, just a few weeks ago, and you can Google this, a new study came out. One of the newest way to do a recent discovery that slows the aging of the brain is being bilingual. The way you use your brain to translate and to think in two languages promotes the age of your brain. So vamos a hablar español. But very interestingly, I thought, okay, so I raised a bilingual family. So how about a bilingual business? Well, my research showed that exactly the same benefits of raising a bilingual family happen in a bilingual business. Intellectual growth and flexibility in thinking, you know. How many of you guys, let's see if we have a show of hands. How many of you guys out there are owners, managers, you supervise people, people respond to you? Raise your hand. Leave them up there. How many of you want more bilingual employees? Yeah? We all do. It's important. Increase opportunities. Hell, we're in Panama. What better example of that? And rich multicultural experiences. I have a really good example of that. The party last night. That was fun. Seeing guys from the Auto Care Association do salsa, it was worth the price of the trip. So, Kathleen and Gustavo, muchas gracias. Yeah, clap away. So, but translating is tough. American poet Robert Frost says that poetry is what gets lost in translation. And we know that. So many jokes don't translate, so many poems, so many love songs. You gotta be careful. But I don't need to anymore because I'm off the... But translating is a funny business, getting the words right, and not the idioms can be funny or fatal. We don't want to be lost in translation. In addition to being a real live warehouse distributor, I'm a writer for an industry magazine, Counterman magazine. I need all the readers I can get, so please come and read our columns. I'm there every month. I'm happy to say that this will be my 40th consecutive monthly column in the magazine. And about, I can't remember, maybe 2 years ago on a trip to Guatemala, courtesy of the fine folks from Federal Mogul Export, which many of them are here, and I thank you for showing up and giving me a little bit of emotional support to deal with the nerves. I wrote an article about a mistake I made translating a part, and I want to share that story with you guys. Because words are not all the same, even in the same language. In our industry, spark plugs can be called bujías, candelas, chispas, and even espares, which is the word's explanation of a Spanglish word. In Puerto Rico, we call them espares, from spark plug. Go figure. CV joints, CV shafts, can be called ejes, flechas, o juntas homocinéticas. I never get to sell one if I call them that in Puerto Rico. Control arms, a huge category. Everybody's now running for control arms. You could see it by walking the show. Many years ago, we were like, just the Vulcan. Now we got to do the control arms. They're called platos, brazos, or even control arms. You know, a lot of countries do that. But the most amazing multi-word item in the world is this one, ball bearings. This is the one that got me in trouble in Guatemala. And you know, I was trying to figure out how can I discover every which way in Spanish that we call ball bearing. Turns out the internet is a powerful tool. Wikipedia actually has an article on it. And I would like to read this to you guys, only to make the job of the translators back there real hard. So go ahead and just call it ball bearing every time you translate it, okay? So I'm going to try to read this off of my iPad, because my eyesight is not what it used to be. Something about looking at computer screens with part numbers for so long. So, rodamiento. Un rodamiento en Chile, España y Colombia, también denominado roulement o roulement, en Argentina, Paraguay y Uruguay, derivado del francés roulement. Rolinera, balinera o valero en México y Venezuela. Rodaje en Perú. Caja de bolas en Cuba, República Dominicana y Puerto Rico. Ahí fue que me metí en problemas. ¿Tú vendes cajas de qué? Rol en Costa Rica, también bolillero, rodaje, rulimán en Ecuador, es un tipo de cojinete que es un elemento mecánico que reduce la fricción entre el eje y las piezas conectadas a este por medio de una rodadura que le sirve de apoyo y facilita su desplazamiento. Ahí hay como 8 palabras, señores. Y hay más. No creo que Wikipedia sea perfecto. No es fácil. Interesantemente, Google Translate, no sé cuántos de ustedes usan Google Translate en su negocio. Guess it right. Google Translate really does a good job. Not with poetry, but with technical terms. And how do they do this? They don't have a whole bunch of guys, bilingual guys doing translation. They use a statistical machine translation. It's data, standards. They compare data. And if auto parts is big data, think about languages, how big that is. I found this interesting, and it's probably incredibly true. Huh? You can never understand one language until you understand at least 2. What we're really talking about here is communication, sharing information, exchanging data. We can throw a whole bunch of words out there, but if we don't have a standard to understand one another, we will never be able to sell you the first part, and you will never be able to find a supplier. That's why we are very excited about the work that the Auto Care Association has done with standards, and with that I bring you probably the guy that knows the most about standards in this industry, my friend Scott, to talk to you a little bit about industry standards.
Thank you so much, Mandy. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Thank you for hanging in with us. We've heard throughout the seminar about big data and about the opportunities to do new business. My role at the Auto Care Association is to help our members do more business together by making full use of the available technology. In the U.S., 90% of the auto parts that get sold begin with a search on a computer keyboard. Not in a paper catalog. 90% of the transactions begin with an electronic catalog lookup. And to make that happen, and to make that possible, a tremendous amount of information has to be exchanged throughout our industry, throughout our supply chain. Electronic commerce and electronic cataloging is the norm today in the U.S., but it wasn't always that way. And I think you're going to see a tremendous growth in the use of electronic cataloging and electronic commerce here in Latin America. But it all begins with suppliers of parts exchanging vast amounts of structured and unstructured information with their trading partners, distributors, and auto parts stores. In the U.S., for almost 20 years now, we've worked on standard ways of communicating that information. Just as Mandy explained, the words of our business are very important that we get them right. And the words that we use to do e-commerce have to be right as well. The computers that we use to do business are not as smart as we are. They have no ability to fill in the gaps and round the edges and figure out what you mean. When you're doing business electronically, it's either right or it's wrong. And if it's wrong, it costs money. So in the U.S., we've spent a lot of effort developing standards that direct our cataloging and all of our other product information. We pronounce these ACES and PIEs. ACES defines the rules for putting together an electronic catalog, and PIEs defines the rules for putting together all the other information about a product. As I said, paper catalogs have been around since the beginning of the industry, but they're not very efficient. They're certainly not current, and they're not the way to help you sell more product. If you were to put those paper catalogs in an electronic form, without standards, you'd have gibberish. If you flip through those pages, they include 10 different ways of referring to the same vehicle. And that doesn't make sense in a computer. So with our industry standards, ACES, we have two very important legs that it stands on. One is a standard database of vehicle information. The year, make, model, engine, configuration for a car or truck. And we put these in a database and we assign ID numbers to them, and they're used, this database is used by hundreds of companies in North America, and with this, all of those companies can refer to a vehicle in the same way, by its ID number. The second leg is standardized methods for identifying parts. As Mandy just explained, a spark plug or a ball joint may be known by many different names, but in e-commerce, it's always known by its ACES Part ID type, Part ID number. And this helps the computer sort through vast amounts of information very quickly, because it's all about getting the right product sold the first time and fast. That's what these standards help enable. But application parts that you look up in a catalog is only one side of the story. There's a lot of product that gets sold based on its weight and length and size, and it's not necessarily application specific. There's tremendous amounts of information that a warehouse or a parts store or a shop technician needs to know. For example, how big is it? What does it weigh? How many come in a box? What is the country of origin? How long is the warranty? And on and on and on. If you started to think about it, you'd come up with hundreds of pieces of information about a product that you need to know. And if you look across our industry, without standards, that information gets very confused and becomes a barrier to doing business. This illustrates a simple example like unit of measure. It's all the same product, rubber vacuum hose, but when you go to order 50, are you ordering 50 millimeters, or 50 meters, or 50 cases? It's important that you and your supplier agree on that unit of measure. There has to be a standard. Otherwise, very expensive inventory errors can occur. Our PIES standard tells the auto care industry members how to prepare and exchange this information. It gives us one language to speak in our electronic business transactions. What a catalog looks like and what automotive information looks like has changed a lot over the years. But today, it appears on a computer screen. And the people working in your stores and in your warehouses and the people servicing automobiles today, the millennials, as we call them, do you know that term? 18 to 26-year-old people have never known a day without the internet. They expect to pick up that tablet and start typing and browsing and pointing and things to happen. As auto parts suppliers and wholesalers and retailers, the data has got to be available to these young store associates. And this is an example of bad data. It does not help sell that product. But what good data does is change the game. It satisfies the customer. We heard that phrase earlier. That's what it's all about. Satisfy the customer's need. Sell the right product for the customer's need. Maybe they need the premium lifetime warranty product, or maybe they need a more affordable alternative. But images and cross-reference information and marketing bullets that describe the features and advantages of the product, these are not advanced, superior pieces of information. These are the minimum. This is the basic information that's necessary to be in the game today and tomorrow. The bar, as we like to say, is constantly rising. And if I did this presentation next year, it would have links to videos that describe installations and so forth. So multimedia is becoming part of the catalog. At the Auto Care Association, as we've heard a couple of times already, we help our members do things together that would be difficult or expensive to do on their own. And exchanging automotive information with the use of standards is one of the things that we can all do together. It lowers the cost of doing business. It helps sell the right product the first time. And when you do that, the product stays sold. I don't know if it's the same here in Latin America. John, you have more experience here than I, but returns of perfectly good product are a major problem in the U.S. The information that suppliers present to their customers helps sell the right product the first time. My friend John has one last bit of advice that I'd like to steal and share with you, and that is that information becomes an important differentiator. Without good data about product, without pictures to help identify the correct product, without marketing bullets The only thing you've given the customer to decide upon is price. Without rich content, price is king. And that's no way to run a business. So to the suppliers, manufacturers in the room, I say, love your data. Invest in your data. To the distributors and retailers in the room, demand great data from your suppliers. It will help grow your business, grow your profits. And we're excited about this market, and we're excited to share the work that we've done in standards. If you'd like to learn more about these, the Auto Care Association has a stand just downstairs, and we'd love to talk with you more about ACES and PIEs. I'd like to have Mandy close us out and tell you a little bit about how they use data at the Parts House.
Muchas gracias, Scott. Te quedó bien bonito. Very nice. Thank you. So, thank you for having me back. Gracias por darme la oportunidad de hablar con ustedes otra vez. En mis reuniones, cuando visito la región, en Costa Rica, Panamá, hay veces que hablamos de estos temas y siempre me felicitan cuando aterrizo el tema, cuando lo amarramos a algo real. Y no nos queríamos ir hoy sin darles un ejemplo de cómo en nuestra compañía hemos podido usar estos estándares de data para crear nuevas ventas. Ahorita les hablé de mi otro trabajo como escritor de la revista Counterman, pero mi trabajo de verdad es como vendedor de piezas, gerente de piezas, dueño de un negocio de piezas. Nuestra compañía se llama The Parts House, está con sede en la ciudad de Jacksonville, Florida. Tenemos 40, ahí dice 39, pero pudimos abrir uno más antes de que llegáramos a Panamá. Estamos en Florida, Georgia, Alabama y en Puerto Rico, que es donde yo vivo, y allí estoy a sus órdenes. Trabajamos muchos canales de distribución, instaladores, refraccionarias, concesionarios, flotas y exportación, que es la razón que nos trae hoy aquí a Panamá, y nos enfocamos en líneas originales, al igual que líneas reemplazo, o como se dice en buen Spanglish, aftermarket. Vendemos una cantidad de productos, marcas, categorías, buenas, baratas, mejores, que es verdaderamente un milagro que nuestros clientes puedan encontrar lo que están buscando. Y aquí hay varios de nuestros clientes que nos usan a diario a través de nuestra plataforma de Internet. Nuestra plataforma de Internet se enfoca en lo que se llama en inglés B2B, Business to Business. Nosotros solamente atendemos a través de esta plataforma a clientes existentes de nosotros, no al dueño del vehículo. Esto nos hace un poco más fácil el trabajo, pero también requiere una data más limpia y más eficiente. Nuestra plataforma de e-commerce, que se llama WebPro, pueden ver nuestro logo abajo a la izquierda. En el día de hoy estamos recibiendo 1.500 órdenes. Procesamos una revisión de piezas cada 2 segundos. Una revisión de piezas cuando uno de nuestros clientes va a la plataforma, entra el número de piezas. Nosotros en cuestión de segundos tenemos que contestarle que el número está correcto, cuál es la marca de esa pieza, cuál es la disponibilidad del producto y cuál es el precio del cliente. Sin los estándares de la industria nada de esto sería posible. Tenemos más de 7.000 usuarios y la plataforma maneja 1/4 de todo lo que nuestra empresa vende. En algunos mercados maneja más del 46%. Puerto Rico es un mercado donde nuestra plataforma maneja más del 40%. Y llevamos 10 años en línea. Parece que empezamos ayer, pero las décadas pasan volando, especialmente en el tema de tecnología. ¿Y qué es lo mejor que yo les puedo dar? El mejor ejemplo que yo les puedo presentar hoy de la capacidad que un negocio en línea puede traerles a ustedes es la comparación entre revisiones por teléfono y revisiones en línea. Nosotros todavía tenemos gente que nos llama por teléfono, muchos. La mayor parte de nuestro negocio ocurre de esa forma. Una llamada por teléfono promedio puede demorar 1 minuto y medio, claro. Si no me preguntas del juego de Argentina, si no me preguntas si te gusta Brasil, que también es importante, porque nuestros vendedores y nuestros clientes deben de tener una relación y eso solidifica la relación personal. Pero siempre hay otro cliente esperando su turno para ser atendido. Así que tenemos que trabajar lo más que podamos en las horas que tenemos con el espacio limitado. Así que un súper empleado que conteste el teléfono y solamente se demora 1.5 minutos, 8 horas al día, 22 días al mes, tiene una capacidad de atendernos 7.000 llamadas. Nuestra plataforma de web Pro atiende más de 330.000 revisiones de repuestos al mes. No hay suficiente plata en el planeta para contratar la empleomanía que pueda igualar esta plataforma. No todo acaba en venta, pero hay estudios de mercado que te dan un ratio de cuántas de estas revisiones deben de acabar en ventas. Esto es como luce la plataforma. Es muy normal, muy fácil, no es Amazon, pero vende muchos repuestos. Además, la plataforma en línea le da un valor añadido. Esa es una palabra, una frase que hoy se usa mucho: te traemos un valor añadido. Pero ¿qué es eso de verdad? Y es que nosotros usamos las herramientas que nos da la data, que nos dan los estándares de data, para hacerle llegar a nuestros clientes un sinnúmero de herramientas y de data que los va a hacer ustedes mejores en el negocio de piezas. Mientras mejores sean nuestros clientes, mejor va a ser la oportunidad de nosotros poder venderles un repuesto. Catálogos en línea, la guía del comprador. Esta tal vez es una de las herramientas que más usan nuestros clientes. Esto es un catálogo en reversa. Usted sabe cuál es la pieza, pero no sabe a qué carro le sirve. Con esta información nosotros lo podemos ayudar. Intercambios, que es la definición básica de lo que es Big Data. Don Roberto, Scott, mucho antes, ciertamente Autovalue, todos han hablado de intercambios, cross-reference. Eso no es más nada que traducir. Igual que hablamos de traducir palabras, estamos traduciendo números de piezas. Y obviamente el internet siempre va a estar lleno de historiales de compra y promociones. Las plataformas son dinámicas, se están moviendo a nuestros teléfonos. Ya muchas de nuestras ventas y nuestras revisiones de precios ocurren en plataformas móviles. Y si uno de ustedes quiere empezar este camino y dar el primer paso en establecer su plataforma de e-commerce, considere el espacio móvil a la par con el espacio tradicional. No pierda tiempo, porque este es el futuro. Los sistemas de interoperabilidad solo son posibles por los estándares de la industria. Lo que hemos podido lograr nosotros, en gran parte, es por la data de ACES and PIEs, de la Auto Care Association. Con eso los dejamos, le damos las más sinceras gracias por haber estado con nosotros. Vamos a estar en el show hasta el viernes y esperamos que nos visiten y si tienen alguna pregunta. Muchas gracias.